welcome to Dope Conversations. I am so excited that you decided to join us today. I would like to say I am so lucky and blessed to have Dr. Lisa K. Thompson with us today on the last day of Women's History Month. We're going to close it out with a great woman that I know and I call mentor. And so we are here to talk today about her research in leading through a crisis and how she's cultivated a career in doing just that. She is a great leader, a great professor, and I always like to throw in a great mom because I think you can be all of those things. So first, I want to say thank you again.
My pleasure.
And I want you to give us a little bit about your research and the research you've done thus far.
Okay. It's ironic that we are talking today about leading during a pandemic because my original research actually started with my dissertation, and I looked at crisis in a school district. At the time, it was Dallas's first woman, first Latina superintendent, who eventually lost her position and served time, and the district was in crisis. There was a lot of bickering amongst the school board members, and so I decided I wanted to look at how the media portrayed this first woman, first Latina during a crisis moment within the district. And my research discovered that when women are in leadership roles, the media tend to frame their analysis of what's going on under a different lens than when it's a man leading. For example, this purple suit, they commented on the fact that she had a lot of color, and she wore makeup and her hair was highlighted. We don't generally see that type of commentary when we talk about male superintendents. So teasing out those differences when a woman is in a leadership role, in particular during a crisis time.
Yeah. And I think your research brings us to a point in time where leadership is important. And we're talking about a time where we have plenty of female leaders. When you talk about the White House, when you talk about even on our campus, we have a female leader. And I think today is very fitting to close out Women's History Month. So we're going to go to break. And then after break, we're going to come back and we're going to dig in a little bit more into her research and see how can we apply it to our current careers, ladies. And men, maybe you'll learn something from us too. We'd love to teach you a little something. Come back after the break.
STEM is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
What do an aerospace engineer, cancer immunologist, and bat scientist all have in common? We all have cool jobs in STEM fields. Whether it's building robots or learning to code, girls everywhere are finding their passion for science, technology, engineering, and math through positive role models and mentors. So dare to dive in, get connected, and explore. You never know what your future may hold. Learn more about these and even more cool jobs at shecanstem.com.
Hello and
right, welcome back. We are ready to jump in, so go ahead and join us. Dr. Thompson, so my first question for you today is, what is it that the research shows about women of color and how we need to lead through a crisis?
Okay, those are two distinct areas, women of color and their leadership, and then also crisis communication. I will say that when women of color are in leadership roles, they are under a microscope even more so than their male counterparts or their counterparts who tend to be Anglo, because the role of the leader is one that is already highly visible. And when you are an anomaly, for example, in a role leading where there have not been many women or women of color, then the level of scrutiny is going to be even more intense. A lot of the research literature shows that when employees are surveyed and they are given different types of characteristics of what they like in a leader, that when they are given the choices of what they like, those characteristics tend to be female. And they don't understand or know when they are picking out the characteristics, a strong communicator, someone who is empathic in their listening, that these are qualities that most women leaders bring to the table.
Right.
And so it is interesting to see how leadership has evolved during a crisis, especially during the pandemic, and the fact that no one has ever really had the opportunity to practice pandemic leadership.
Right.
You just kind of jumping in feet first, head first, but when you understand leadership and you understand that dynamics will change and you have to sometimes change your approach to match the rapid changing of what is happening, then that is something that you are comfortable doing because you understand that it's situational. And so the situation is going to determine how you make your next decision.
And I think we can say at PV, we experienced exactly what you said through the leadership of Dr. Simmons. One of the things I remember as a student is receiving communication when the pandemic hit, that spring break, saying, okay, I'm gonna get one more week of spring break.
Right.
But it wasn't so cold in nature. It was a warm email. Like, you could tell that she was concerned about us. She was really trying to make the best decision for the university, so much so that she did surveys. She communicated with us. I felt like she was very transparent.
Yes.
Very counter to my son's school. I won't mention the name, but it's a PWI. The leadership didn't say anything until the Sunday before it was time for them to go back. So I'm starting to compare Dr. Simmons and this doctor, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
Well, let me throw another variable in there. Most of the leadership studies that have been done, let's say from the turn of the century to the 1940s, really focused on the leader and the leader's personality. And so the leader's personality, for example, the Myers-Briggs personality, I am an ENFP. So I'm very extroverted. I'm very much a feeler, and other people's emotions are important to me before we get to the heart of the matter. That also comes into the leadership style and then the end outcome of what you see, depending on who the leader is. So if you couple a leader who happens to be a female, who may be more nurturing, who also happens to be an extrovert, you know, who may be more engaged and in tune with people, then it's going to show in the things that come out. For example, you honed in on a communication. So that's a very legitimate way of how you can see the delineation between the different types of leaders along the gender lines, but also along personality.
And I did the Myers-Briggs one time, and I know I'm an I.
Okay.
So I don't know how much communications y'all would get.
You know, I think introverts get a bad rap. Introverts, their normal way of functioning is more private, but that doesn't mean you can't be a public person or a big personality, especially if you have a position that requires it. A lot of introverts know how to rise to the occasion, but in their personal space, they prefer a small group more
See,
intimate.
Introverts, there's hope for us. So you just have to figure out how to work in your space and you can still lead.
Yes.
How have you applied your research to your current leadership roles? I know that you're the president of the Links chapter in Katy, correct?
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, I am just concluding my term. And one of the things that we as leaders, we have professional development. And so especially centering on the pace of COVID and how it continues to change. It is different for us because we meet face to face, and there is a opportunity to hug and dine as we take care of the business that has been removed. And so I know for us, we miss that aspect. We miss that aspect of doing our community service, bonding with our sisters. And so it has made us use this cyber, virtual, Zoom-laden world, opportunities to do more friendship activities, so that we do have an opportunity to bond. As a leader, you kind of temperature check, and you can kind of see sometimes when, there are highs and lows, and what is it that you can do to try and lift when people are dealing with their own personal trials and tribulations that you may or may not be aware of.
Right.
I say the best thing to do is to make decisions that aren't necessarily easy but are in the best interest of everyone. And when you have that type of mindset that you're making decisions that you think are going to be in the best interest of the group, then you can't go too far,
right,
or fall too short.
Right.
So.
And then if you're sticking with the vision and the mission of your organization,
yes,
that will always align you.
Yes, and the service has not stopped. We just had to stop and say, okay, 6 or more gathered with our masks. We have partnerships with Dress for Success of Houston, donated items to the PV food pantry, over 900 items. And so the work does continue. We still are giving scholarships, as a matter of fact, STEM scholarships for Prairie View students, and we're still doing a lot of programming for the Katy, Richmond, Rosenberg, Fulshire area, and we have centered it toward COVID and PPE and things such as how to get your children back on track since they've been homeschooled.
Right.
Things that are very timely and very relevant.
So when you became chapter president, then you became chapter president during the pandemic, correct?
The pandemic hit March 2020, and I was elected May 2020. And so, again, jumping in, but looking forward to the challenge, because one thing about me, I love opportunities for growth. And so for me, it was an opportunity to apply what I've studied for years in a real situation. There's theory and then there's practice.
Right.
And so again, the pandemic is a wild card. You don't really know what you're dealing with because the members, wide range of emotions, things going on, personal, jobs no longer there, the stress of it all. Stress is something that can, have individuals change. And so you've got to have a mindset and a temperament that no matter what, I'm still going to move forward in ways that will be helpful, because you recognize that everyone is not on the same level in terms of how they deal with change.
Right.
I'm quite accustomed to it. I always tease about my background being from Oak Cliff. This is light work in consideration to some of the things that I've experienced as a high schooler.
Right.
So I can go with the change.
So when you were setting yourself up, getting ready for the term, you won, and you're like, okay, I won. Now what? How did you prepare yourself to get ready to lead this group of women? And you're talking about, you're leading not like high schoolers, you're leading some strong, prominent women in the community, women that are leaders. So how do you lead a leader?
I've heard this said about teaching teachers, and how it's kind of like herding cats, because teachers understand pedagogy, they understand teaching, and so when you as a teacher, you're always being evaluated on your teaching because you're teaching teachers.
Right.
Same thing with leading leaders. We have some of the most prolific women. Former HISD superintendent was a part of our chapter. Individuals who are setting trends in different areas within business, engineering. For me, I think harnessing the power that is within the chapter, making sure the right people are having the right seat on the bus in terms of our leadership, making sure that I fact check with my mentors, because again, there are individuals who have done this for a long time, and so if you don't glean their wisdom and advice as you are navigating, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So I have a very strong network of other sister presidents who are also at some point kind of pulling their hair out. You see, I used to have hair before I started, and so now it's whittled away. No, it was my choice. It was my choice. But you have a network, and don't be afraid. I mean, you don't have to worry about fear of not knowing. Right. The most responsible thing you can do is to seek out those. Our Western Area Director, Lorna Hankins, is an individual who I have relied on heavily in terms of making sure I'm doing things, the way Links do things. And so she's like, you got it. So that helps. But I always, and I'm going back to my research, I always member check. Yeah. Member check is making sure that what you see is also the same thing that someone else is seeing as well.
So now I have another question for you.
Okay.
As a leader, and you are beginning to step into an organization that is multi-gendered, how do you lead that strong male figure and not become a mother, that other mothering syndrome?
Yes, here's the thing, I am Generation X. And so I understand boomers, I understand traditionalists, I understand their mindset. And it's ironic because I work with a diverse group of colleagues. And so prior to the pandemic, there was this little running joke about, so-and-so, Dr. So-and-so is working at Starbucks. You can't do any work at Starbucks. Well, then here comes the pandemic. And guess what? We're all now working from home. And some of my colleagues understand, you can be very productive at home. And so it is an openness to embracing technology, because the use of technology now with COVID has been higher than it has been in the past. Yeah. But you lose the face-to-face, which I love the most, working with the students, watching them do groups, presentations. That element I do miss, and I'm glad that we are starting to slowly move back into that environment where we can have both, a hybrid. But from an intergenerational standpoint, I respect those who have seen and done more than me. And so I borrow from them, and then I also share. And it's, for example, I'm doing a lot of the marketing and a lot of the social media for my college, and they appreciate that because that's of my generation. And so they're now on Facebook, they're now on Instagram, where before it was their grandkids. And so, I might say, I see you hitting like Dr. Parker. What you doing on Facebook at 2 o'clock in the morning? Right. So it's good. It's great. I think there's a nice balance between the different generations.
So when you stop said colleague from coming to you about wife and children problems, how do you do that in a diplomatic way?
Okay, what do you mean by wife
So
problem?
they say, instead of asking you about the next grant you're writing, they're like, okay, I got this wife problem at home, and I don't know how to talk to her, and she want to go out, and I really don't want to go out. So instead of turning to you for professional work, they're turning you for that motherly, nurturing.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm an ENFP, very high scoring, so that's right in with my radar. I don't mind it. I prefer to know that my colleague or my counterpart is feeling okay, and so it doesn't bother me. Now, if I were on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, I was an introverted, intuitive thinker, judger, I'd be like, hey, I don't want to hear about that right now, and I would mean it. And so, but it's not a problem for me. And the good thing about where I work here at Prairie View, we are very family oriented. It does not feel like co-worker, colleague. It does feel like family. And so I think that's probably why it wouldn't bother me as much.
Thank you. We have had a great conversation with Dr. Thompson, and when we come back from commercial, she's going to share some ideas that can help our young and new leaders and some of our seasoned leaders navigate those jobs, and so that you can continue to rise and break those ceilings. So come back after the break so you can hear some more.
No margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
What do an aerospace engineer, cancer immunologist, and bat scientist all have in common? We all have cool jobs in STEM fields. Whether it's building robots or learning to code, girls everywhere are finding their passion for science, technology, engineering, and math through positive role models and mentors. So dare to dive in, get connected, and explore. You never know what your future may hold. Learn more about these and even more cool jobs at SheCanSTEM.com.
Welcome back, leaders. We are now going to share with you some tips that you can use to gain the leadership that you need, the skill sets that you need to have in your toolbox to take you through the next level. So, Dr. Thompson, what advice would you give a young leader, or even just a seasoned leader, a leader that's trying to get to that next level? How can they prepare?
First of all, you have to be engaged. I would recommend involvement in organizations that you have a passion for. I also would recommend a mentor.
Yes.
Making sure that you have a mentor. And there are different types of mentors.
Thank you.
There are personal mentors. There are mentors in terms of your professional life, and then your personal life. Mentors will always be absolutely crucial at every single level. Once you become president of a corporation and you're in your 50s,
right,
you will still have mentors. So that is something that I highly recognize. Also, there are a lot of assessments out there as far as inventorying your strengths and then areas that you need more practice. I don't like the term weakness. I need more practice with that. Gregoric is one, knowing your personality type. I can't stress enough how important it is to know not only yours, but to be well versed in the other types of personalities, because there will come times when you run across individuals who are very cantankerous and you don't understand, well, why are they just so gruff and, not pleasant? Well, they just operate from a different paradigm. They are focused, they're more task-oriented, and so they're focused on the task.
Right.
They're not as relationship-oriented as you, and guess what? That's okay.
Good.
Because we need all types of different personalities in order for the mission to be accomplished. So make sure you understand who you are and be comfortable in who you are, and make sure that you try and involve yourself in those types of things that allow you to lead.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson, for sharing that for our young leaders. We're going to go take a quick commercial break, and then I have some good news for you next.
STEM is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Okay, ladies, welcome back, and gentlemen, welcome back. We had a small, tough technical difficulty when we wanted to fix her mic. It went off, and I want to make sure you hear all this goodness that I was hearing, but apparently I was the only one hearing, so now you get to hear it, and I get to hear it again. So, can you please share with us, what can young ladies and women do to prepare themselves for leadership roles? What can they do to build that skill set?
The first thing that I would recommend is to figure out your passion and then try and align yourself with organizations that are also doing the sorts of things that you would like to do. It gives you an opportunity to learn on the job. By volunteering, you are fulfilling your need for service. I also highly recommend that you make sure you have a mentor. It's important to have a mentor. I have a mentor. I've always had a mentor, but ironically, my mentors have been white males. And I say that it's ironic because the times that I've taken their advice, for example, negotiating my salary as a professor, my department head told the dean, this right here was one of the toughest negotiations, and this is for visiting assistant professor. She negotiated like, hey, I'll take it or leave it. And that perspective was like, hey, you asked for this, that, and this, because they already had insight in how it would be countered. So you need different types of mentors, mentors for personal and professional. And then also, I strongly recommend understanding your personality type, as well as other different types of personalities, because you can't pick who you work with, you can't pick who you serve with, but you can understand that they may be coming from a different paradigm, and okay, this approach might work better with someone who's more introverted, thinker, judger. They need data. They're not the type to just go by what you say. That you got to show them.
Can you give them some names or where they can locate some tests that they can do?
Oh, absolutely. Within the College of Ed, we do the Gregoric Style Delineator. The Myers-Briggs is normally administered by a professional psychologist. But if you have access to a career center, or if you're in college, you can certainly go to your career center and they can offer you a free complimentary one. And it's good to take it maybe every 5 to 7 years. I've taken it 3 times at 10-year intervals, 22, 32, and 42. Because of growth. But I have discovered that my personality style has not changed.
Do you think even when our goals change, maybe our personality may change a little bit just to kind of adjust to what we're trying to do as far as career?
I think what you're describing is situational leadership, and so the environment and the climate will dictate which type of style you utilize, whether you're slightly more authoritarian, where you're slightly more laissez-faire, hands-off. Usually in that type of environment, it's a well-oiled machine, and you don't have to be as hands-on as say, an organization that is falling apart. You have to be more involved, and
I think that goes back to what you said earlier in the show about knowing your members, and knowing who you're serving and who you're leading, and I think that's a great piece of advice.
Yes.
So I thank you so much for sharing all your research and knowledge and experience.
Thank you.
What are you working on now that our audience can tune in or follow you and get some more information about what you're doing?
This weekend I will be at Houston-Tillotson University. There is a public policy and HBCU conference, and so I'll be talking about, again, some of the work that's being done at Prairie View A&M University, and actually in concert with the Links Incorporated, and how this whole notion of communiversity, where the community and the university bond together in order to meet the needs of the community. So that, to me, when I think about it, it comes full circle to why I wanted to get my doctorate, because of school community relations, and now we've gone from P12 to P20. So we're looking at the university as well as public schools and how we can serve.
Well, thank you for doing the work. Thank you for being my mentor.
Thank you.
And I appreciate everything that you're doing, one, for Black women, and then two, as a student at Prairie View A&M. We are blessed to have you, and that we continue to see you. We hope that you stay for a long, long time, or at least I graduate.
Yes.
So, very
I'm
good.
not going anywhere.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, we will have Dr. Quincy Moore from the Honors College here at PVAMU. He'll come on because he's also a tenured associate professor in the biology department, and he's going to talk to us about why it's important for African American students to get involved in STEM. He'll also share some career possibilities for you that you can look into, because no, you don't just have to be the biology teacher in high school. There's so much more that you can do with a biology degree, and he's going to share that with us next week. So thank you for tuning in. Please follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. You can follow me at Pakita Pegram on all social media platforms, but also subscribe to PVAMU TV and Pakita Pegram TV. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Pakita out.